I'm back, and I'm better than ever. Face facts.
You know, when I said a moment of dead air, I didn't particularly mean you singing. What this is going to cause to happen is in a little bit we'll hear an echo of it. Here we go! Alright, so I'm going to tweet this out because we just went live.
Oy vey.
Okay, we have tweeted that out. Now, why are we here? What the fuck are we all doing? It's pretty simple. I have a guest on here, Netscape9, and he's here to justify the behavior of his moderators.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I'm here to justify necessarily. I'm here to
well, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
Because of the purpose of this, I wanted to get a commitment from you that you would share this with the moderators, that this isn't, that when I have Dan upload this stream, probably tomorrow, that someone is actually going to see it who this is relevant to. Can I get that commitment from you?
I already posted a link so people can join this from the mod team if they want to. Most of them are offline right now, or AFK. Yeah, only Myriad Truths and Dark Moon are online right now, as far as I can tell, so...
That's fine. They can join if they want to join. What I'm asking for you is a commitment that the recorded version of this stream will be shown to them.
Yes. I posted in the mod chat. I'm about to post it in the lounge now, so people from my server can see it if they want to.
Okay, so when this is uploaded tomorrow, you will make sure that it gets into the right hands. Is what I'm asking, does that make sense?
Yes, I'm going to post it on the channel.
Okay, good.
I posted the live version now, and I post
because you've made a lot of commitments to do things that weren't quite what I asked you to do, so I want to make sure that the message is getting through.
Yes, and of course, I cannot speak for all the moderators. I can speak for myself.
That's
and I can speak for, I guess, the server administration, but...
The moderators are applying their... So, Mystic Jojo has outright said this. He said that they are applying their subjective interpretation of the rules that you have laid down. That you essentially said that, here are the rules, you enforce them, and that's how it is. So, while they are applying their subjective interpretation, they are your rules. Is that correct?
Yes, but we did vote on them publicly as a community. The original rules that I laid out were actually scrapped, and the rules that we have now were created by the moderators with community feedback. We did a live stream. I can pull up a link to it if you want, where we actually talked about every single potential rule, any potential problems there might be with it, and then we put it to a vote with the moderators, and we got public feedback the entire time. And pull up the stream.
You had a process to it, but... they are essentially enforcing rules, as in they are not making shit up and doing whatever they want. There's a set of rules that they're following, right?
Yes, and of course there's also the Discord rules, which every server has to follow.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to do is something that keeps happening... let me grab, before we continue, let me grab that URL and put it on there so the people watching can see it. So Netscape mentioned the stream where they discussed the rules. I will put that URL on the screen so that everyone can see it.
I mean, to be fair, most of us were gone by the time that stream even happened. Through random rule bans.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do first is, one of the things that I've noticed is their moderators like to talk about people after they've banned them, but not before they've banned them. One of the things that Liv keeps bringing up that was not brought to my attention at all while I was present was the QQ-spiracy, and using that as an indication that I'm a troublemaker and that I'm untrustworthy. You were heavily involved in the QQ-spiracy. Do you know what event I'm talking about, Netscape?
The game diviner situation?
Exactly. I would like... because you were so heavily involved, would you care to give a brief summary of exactly what happened in your own words, and I can jump in?
Sure, and feel free if I get something wrong. Feel free to correct me if I get something wrong. But basically, you created a post which was partially your own views and partially kind of exaggerated versions of your own views, or just throwing stuff out there. Some of it was your own beliefs, some of it wasn't. You shared that with an individual, the game diviner, also known as Paulo Munoz. He thought it was a good idea, or at least parts of it were a good idea. So he contacted a few people in private and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And it was an idea basically to end Gamergate because it was becoming too extreme. That was Paulo Munoz's version of it, because people were acting in a very extreme manner, at least in his eyes. And so he wanted to put an end to Gamergate on his own terms, not necessarily terms that everybody would agree on. And he shared that around in private. Myself and a couple others thought it was kind of questionable that he was trying to do this behind everybody's back. So we posted the chat logs publicly.
So Master Dr. N7 wants to ask why the rules and feedback video is unlisted.
Because it's related to the Gamergate Discord server. It's on a playlist that is public, but I figure that most of my audience, I've got like 2,000 subscribers, most of them probably don't care about what goes on in the Discord channel. But the video was posted on the Discord server, and if you go to the playlists tab of my channel, you can see that it is public. I'll post a link to that so you can check that yourself. But yeah, it is publicly listed there under my playlist lists.
All right, so that was a little bit off topic. I'm going to get back to the QQspiracy because I can give my point of view. I have given my point of view to you before. That's how you're so intimately aware of what was going on. But that stream actually ended up getting deleted because the person who was running it doxed themselves. Oops! But my summary was, at the time, this was right after Airplay, and for various reasons, I was not happy with Sargon immediately after Airplay. So when I heard that there was a big conspiracy to end the hashtag, I was not pleased by this. Game Diviner listed this big list of e-celebs that he already had on board and the ones that he was going to have on board. And my idea was to write the anti-Sargon manifesto. In other words, how to end the hashtag in the way that would piss Sargon off the most. So I was hoping that Game Diviner would circulate this around, and that other people would read it, and that it would kind of throw a bit of a monkey wrench in the works. Honestly, I'm not it's hard to think back and think what my mindset was. I'm not sure if I really cared about ending the hashtag that much at all. Like, I don't think that they could. Like, you can't do that through top-down diktat, can you? And actually,
not really, no.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was going to be a big shit show, that it was going to cause even more drama than anything that had ever happened. I've posted my entire interactions with Game Diviner somewhere, or at least most of them. It was really hard to screenshot because there were other people in the chat that I didn't want to talk about. One of which I don't care about talking about at all anymore, which is Cult of Vivian. She was in there too. I didn't bring her up, and I specifically cropped her out because I didn't want to reveal that, but now, fuck her. Sorry, excuse my French. So now she's in there too. She was in there too. I can reveal that now. Although now the DM group is long defunct and I can't screenshot it again. So yes, that's what it was. Yes, it was a troll job, but I was honestly doing what I thought was best. And if you can fault me for that, go right ahead. I'm a puka. That's the type of mischief I like to get up to.
Oh, I know how you operate, QQ. Personally, I think you probably, if you had issues with Sargon or his approach to things, you probably should have made a public video or made a public statement, expressing your disagreement. Probably would have been a better approach than getting, Paulo Munoz and all these people to talk about it in private.
Oh, it was Paulo Munoz's idea, or at least he was the man who was set to front it. I was just along for the ride, and I gave my input.
But you wrote one of the big. Not articles, but yes. I guess forum topics?
After Paulo Munoz said he was collecting ideas from everyone, I submitted my idea under the assumption that it would be circulated to everyone. And it wasn't. You were the second person to get it, in fact, other than the people in those DM groups. So that should clarify that. You can continue to use that against me, but Netscape...
I didn't use that against you,
I do believe you think this is resolved, right?
I know that Liviana did bring this up with me. I can't, share the private messages. Not all of them. Some of them she did make public herself in the moderator chat. I think that's fair game.
I still have images of what people were talking about after I left, and I can say that I do have permission to say that I have these images. So I can say that she has been bringing up the Q-conspiracy, so I just wanted to hear it from your own mouth that you consider this to be settled.
But you cut out there.
Okay, so she has been sharing this around. I do have confirmation of this in screenshot form. I just want to hear it from your own mouth that you consider this to be settled, because the post that she's sharing around is yours.
Yes, it's settled in the sense that it's long old drama.
Do you consider it to be a blight on my character?
I mean, people can make their own judgments about your character if they want to. Personally, I mean, I think you handled it. You know, I don't think that's the best approach, but you know, like you said, that was mostly Paulo Munoz' doing.
I'm not trying to load it all on Paulo. There's a lot of people involved. He was just the man who was sent to front it. I don't even know if it was his idea, but he was the man who was sent to front it. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on this, so let's move on really quickly. I also wanted to address Mystic Jojo because he got into a large argument with Victor after I was gone. And one of the points that he kept bringing up is that freedom of association supersedes freedom of speech. I didn't used to think this was the case. I used to think that there should be some governmental guarantee of free speech, even on private platforms. I realize now that this is quite tyrannical. You can probably dig up some old tweets of mine that say that, but people change. I think that that's tyrannical, and that private platforms should absolutely be allowed to control what's said on them. For example, I think that on Twitter, the Twitter moderators and Jack have every right to ban whoever they want. They have every right to do that. It's their platform, and they own it. So I am in complete agreement with Mystic Jojo about that. However, I do want to point the following out. I still heavily criticize Twitter's censorship practices and the behavior of the Twitter moderators and their algorithms, and Jack himself and how he runs his company. Netscape, can you try and come up with an explanation for how I can hold those two views simultaneously? Can you work out why that is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Twitter is a private company. They can set whatever policies they want. You agree to those policies whenever you sign the terms of service. So you agree to abide by their rules and their policies whenever you sign the terms of service. But at the same time, you can criticize that private company and the policies that they have in place.
All right.
And I take the completely different view of Twitter sells itself as a free speech platform, and if the terms of service is out of sync with that, they should be brought up on fraudulent advertising and other such things. But we won't get into that because that's a whole lot of autism to cover.
Well, so that sort of touches on another topic, though. What if a company changes their mind later on, like Reddit or Twitter, if they build themselves as a free speech platform 10 years ago, and they sort of change their approach since then?
I want to skip over it because it really doesn't matter, because they're even to this day still claiming that, so your point there really isn't valid, and this is just an aside.
Yeah, that's at a bit of an aside point. Yes, platforms change over time. Yes, they can even change their mission statement. For an example, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Google/Alphabet has abandoned their "Don't be evil" mantra. Another example is NPR used to say, "We show both sides of every issue," and now they say, "We show the truth" instead. It's a change in policy. Companies do that. However, if a company doesn't change their policy and they start behaving in a different way, I see that as fair game to criticize them.
Yeah, I mean, you can criticize private companies for pretty much anything if you want, so...
Rami says in the chat, Google, yeah, we're evil. So, another thing that Liv and JoJo and all that keep bringing up is, we're not only banning the people who don't contribute. So I wanted to really quickly go over some of the things about who we are, because I don't think they really know who I am and who Templar is and who things like that. You know it, Netscape. We've known each other for a long time. So I used to do the weekly and semi-weekly news for GG in video form. I was the source that a lot of people got their GG news from about March to August of 2015, I believe. I've also... I was doing those with a partner who I no longer work with anymore. I've later switched to work with Dan now. And now we do mini documentaries of a sort. I've done things on the indie scene, on poor localization practices, on the CISA bill, the visual novel scene, on Twitter censorship and curation, on the creators of Firewatch and their hatred of gamers, the history of Gamergate, science fiction and their sad and rabid puppies, on YouTube gaming, and on ethics in games journalism. I also administer the blog QQ Media, and my editor-in-chief there is Dan, my partner. So that's my accomplishments. Templar, do you want to go over a bit about how you got involved in GG?
Oh, that's a long, long fucking road. But I think we need to pull it back and realize GG is nothing more than the explosion of a powder keg that had been building for some years. And speaking as a guy who, with my good friend and I guess you could say partner in crime, Bill the Man of Kentucky, I was one of the original folks that actually sussed out the fact that Anita Sarkeesian, the whole fervor around her Kickstarter, was nothing more than media creating a story that just wasn't there for clicks and all that bullshit. That video would later go on to inspire other folks to create YouTube channels in a similar vein, like Dangerous Analysis, who you might remember as having won the Kerfluffle Awards, or I forget the name.
The Conco Awards, yes.
Yeah.
The SBJ's Awards for Outstanding blah-de-blah in games journalism, yeah.
Yeah, he won it for that video on the fraud that was Tim Schafer's Fig, if I recall correctly. But if we're looking for more recent accomplishments with regards to Gamergate, you know, because I'm sure some of you folks in the audience are going to be like, well, that was years ago. Because keep in mind, I made that video back in like June of 2012, roughly. And again, it was with my buddy Bill. But then during Gamergate around August, not August, September-ish, I would say, it's like Anita starts coming out again and being like, I was threatened, I had to leave my house and all this shit. And my buddy Bill was on Twitter while everyone was arguing about harassment and all this and just basically asking, did she even call the cops? And nobody had an answer. So basically, after figuring out where she lived by basically having to dig up some old shit and having to talk to the likes of Jordan Owen, oh God, I've got stories about that. We basically called her fucking precinct and asked to talk with a representative, and he basically said that he had no information, that no call like this ever took place. And that's where Jordan Owen and Milo Yiannopoulos reports on it ended. I should point out that our reporting on this kind of predates those two by about an hour, if I recall correctly. You can find it, a record of this, on Bill's Tumblr called The Art of Being Bill, if I recall correctly. But basically, we went one step further because we got to talk to the dispatch officer that was at the 911 call center off the record. And this individual basically said no person named Anita or any incident that came close to what was her particular incident, apparently, because again, this has been years, so I've kind of forgotten all the finer details, but basically nothing happened like that in her precinct over that week. And once we dropped that, yes, it just caused the internet to be on fire for about 3 days. And we basically were never blamed. It's like Jordan Owen and Milo Yiannopoulos took the heat. So you could, if you have a problem with Milo, you could feel free to blame me and Bill, because we're the reason he is where he is now, I think.
But I figured
Yiannopoulos took the heat. Outside of that, it's just mostly been digging, archiving shit, like the fact that Brianna Wu never fucking left their house if they were threatened and all that other bullshit.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in terms of,
you've helped on some of our videos as well with the digging. So
in terms of if age is seniority, I outrank every last one of you whippersnapper little shits. That's my opinion on the matter. If this is the Cold War,
so I got involved much later than that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, Templar, but we need to get moving here. We only got about 30 minutes more.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, if this was the Cold War, I'm the spy who basically got started out during fucking Operation Overlord back in World War II. So yeah, continue.
So, Netscape, what was your key moment that caused you to get involved in this whole hashtag controversy, whatever?
Well, I guess it wasn't like any one thing because I got involved because I saw like the Internet Aristocrats videos. I thought they were pretty good, and so I said, "Hey, let's talk to a couple people. Let's see what this is about." But I didn't really care. I wasn't really heavily involved with it, so I talked to a couple people on both sides, and from there, I sort of saw what was happening with game developers, like Pillars of Eternity, that controversy, with the change the cover controversy in comics, things like that, where they were demanding that game developers and comic book artists, pretty much anybody who creates art or entertainment, has a certain moral obligation to promote ideas that they feel are bad or good, and not promote ideas that they feel are bad. And of course, that's very subjective, and people should be able to make whatever the hell they want. You should be policing that or trying to control what people can make. And I thought that was very, very wrong, so I got involved because of that.
All right, fair enough. I can tell you when I got involved was when I first noticed it was the deletions on Reddit, right? It was right on the front page. I think it was from one of the video things that were a front page subreddit. I went there for one of the Internet Aristocrat videos that had been posted. I did watch the video. I thought it was really interesting. But what really caught my eye was what was going on in the comment section for that video. Namely, the comments were all being deleted. Some of them were being deleted and other people were being shadow banned. Now, this is a interesting bit of contrast here, because a deleted comment is something that a subreddit moderator can do. They can just go in there and delete the comments. That's not a problem. However, shadow banning a user, now not a subreddit-specific shadow ban, but a site-wide shadow ban, only the Reddit administrators can do that. So in other words, that was pretty much proof that not only were the mods of the subreddits getting involved in this censorship, but also that the administrators of Reddit were as well. Now, we don't have much visibility into what was going on inside the heads of the administrators, but we do have a little bit of a peek inside what was going on inside the heads of the moderators, specifically of our games, because our game's moderator, Xavier Mendel, made several large posts. I'll post the first one here. I'll make the URL visible. Give me a moment. There we go. That's an archive link to his Reddit post. Xavier Mendel made a post that explained exactly what was going on behind the scenes on our games and why they made the decision to start censoring it. And it posts details of an IRC conversation that he had. He later released certain portions of this IRC conversation. But it was the rationales for why the other moderators were telling him that he should delete it were that it's just drama for the sake of drama. There's not really any discussion. I don't think that this fucking garbage belongs on any decent sub, or reasons like that, right? Basically, this is low-quality content, we need to get rid of it. And then, but what really clinched it is that Zoe Quinn herself got on and started sending messages to people asking for special care because it was her wrongdoing that was plastered all over our games, and that's when they really started kicking into high gear. They had Zoe Quinn's name in auto-moderator already, they stopped approving those posts, and they started being more and more heavy-handed. And this post has a timeline. You can go through and you can see how they got more and more heavy-handed as time went on, through a combination of improving the general quality of the subreddit by filtering that out, and taking care of a woman who was complaining about them about being harassed. So, our games is their subreddit. They own it. They have every right to moderate it however they want. I wanted to ask you, Netscape, what you think they did wrong.
Well, that was a bit before my time, so I don't know everything that was necessarily posted on the thread. From my understanding, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of comments. Should some of those people have been banned? Maybe. I'm not sure what they said exactly. But the vast majority of the people talking about the topic weren't really posting anything inappropriate, so they shouldn't have been banned.
20,000 deleted comments, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and it later comes out in the IRC logs that they basically just set the auto moderator to delete everything on that TB post.
Right, that's pretty excessive. I mean, there are plenty of topics that get thousands of posts on Reddit or on other forums, and you don't see people flipping their shit and trying to ban everything.
So you'd more or less say that they were given a subjective set of rules that were up to moderator discretion to enforce, and they went a little bit too far. They took these rules and they interpreted them a little bit broader than they should have, and they overreacted, right?
As far as I can tell, yes.
So what ended up being the result of this? Well, through no intention of their own, they ended up having a bit of an exodus, right? All of the users who were interested in discussing this topic became disgusted with the moderation practices. So what they did is they moved to another subreddit that already existed, named Kotaku in Action, and that is where a lot of Kotaku in Action's users were bootstrapped from, was from an exodus from our games because of the censorship there.
Yeah.
And I remember getting involved in all this because I remember initially reading, oh, some chick fucked some journalist in order to get coverage for her shit. And I'm just like, it's funny because I was talking to my buddy Bill. This was like a day after the Zoe post drop. And I'm like, this is going to be over in a week and this dude's going to get fired 3 years later. It's like, my God.
So my involvement a little bit later was once I actually decided to start to become active, I went and I found an IRC channel because that's what I always do. So I found an IRC channel called Burgers and Fries. That's where I joined, and I hung out there for a long time. I became friends with the moderation team there. But a lot of the people from Burgers and Fries didn't have the same backstory that I did. Instead of coming over from Reddit, a lot of them hated Reddit, and they never went there. Instead, they came over from the image boards, from what is colloquially called the Chans. So I wanted to read you a few things that Moot, who was the owner of 4chan at the time, had said, and because he was very involved in certain things around GG as well. One of the things that he said is this was in an old feedback thread from May of 2013. It predates GG by about a year. So here's what he said. Someone was asking for some special feature where they could do some kind of democratic bullshit in order to decide what boards ended up on 4chan. His response was, 4chan is not free. You do not have a right to free speech. We've had rules and moderation since day one, and this site has never been and never will be a democracy. That said, 4chaners enjoy more freedom in terms of what they can say and discuss compared to the vast majority of websites, but this does not make it free. I also watched the boards and my email for input as far as what boards to add, but I have never gone solely off of that, as evidenced by my recent additions. So, would you agree that this is a fair statement? I mean, he's basically saying, 4chan's my property, I can do with it whatever the fuck I want, and it's not really a free speech zone because we've always had moderation.
Well, I've never really been heavily involved in 4chan and posting there. But I mean, yeah, it's his company. He can do whatever he wants with it.
So one of the things that caused a lot of controversy was on in September 19th of 2014. This was about a month after the Zoe post dropped. Moot made the decision to unilaterally ban Gamergate threads from V. They were just no longer allowed to be posted on V. V is the video games board. And this is the post that he made. Let me put an archive of this up.
Anyone there?
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, I was getting the
Yeah.
archive links up, and that messes with my push-to-talk key. So,
Okay.
there's the two archives. First one is his explanation of how it's not a free speech board. The second one is his statement on GG. And this is what he had to say. He said, the decision to remove... Give me a moment, let me get it all lined up, right? He said, the decision to remove Gamergate threads has been poorly communicated, and that's my fault. Said threads are being deleted primarily because they violate our blanket no personal information /raids/calls for invasion rule. Spamming the report system and creating multiple topics were also a factor, especially given V is one of 4chan's fastest moving boards and has historically struggled with keeping topics limited to actual video games. Regarding a perceived lack of free speech /censorship, many seem to misinterpret my advocating for anonymous communication and highlighting that it allows people to share things they would otherwise not be comfortable with on other platforms, as you can say and do anything on 4chan, which simply isn't the case. We've had rules and moderators since the site was founded 11 years ago, and I've only reinforced this statement over the years, a la, and then he links back to the previous statement that he made about free speech. He said, to those who actually want to use V to discuss Vidya, and not a movement that has outgrown 4chan, a la Project Chanology, apologies for the inconvenience. So this isn't an impolite statement. The most impolite thing about it is comparing it to Chanology, because a lot of users of 4chan view Chanology as kind of a derogatory thing now. Chanology was their operation against the Church of Scientology, and some of them viewed it as really embarrassing when it turned into meat space, and people were dressing up in Guy Fawkes masks and protesting the Church of Scientology. So that's the only rude thing in there. What do you think of the statement? Do you think he did anything wrong? And if so, what did he do wrong?
In the statement or in the decision to remove Gamergate discussion?
Both.
Well, the statement is pretty PR. It's not really anything particularly interesting. But he's comparing people talking about video game issues, such as censorship, such as the obviously ethics in games journalism, indefensible, and the IGDA and things like that. He's comparing that to Project Chanology or a raid or something like that, which isn't really accurate. But yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with his decision to do that, but
yeah. Well, again, I think this is another case of what you saw in the Mandel situation, the Xavier Mandel situation, with a little bit of a twist. One of the things that he didn't really reveal in here, but through the grapevine you can hear about, is that one of the reasons he decided to do this was because the mod queue was being absolutely flooded with reports about GG. He decided that this was way more trouble than it was worth, and he just didn't want it on his platform. It was becoming hell to moderate, it was taking up all of the mod's time, so just get rid of it and that'll solve the problem, right? It's his platform, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. If he sees that a certain topic is causing a degradation of the surface, he has every right to get rid of it. That was his rationale.
yeah. I mean, obviously, that sort of leads to other issues, like if you're flooding. I mean, we don't know who was flooding reports, and if you're trying to silence a topic, you can silence almost any topic then by just simply making it too much for the moderators to handle. You could get any topic you want shut down, if that's your rationale.
Yeah, pretty much. So what ended up being the result of this? Well, we all know what the result of this was. There was another exodus. A whole bunch of people really didn't like this. They went to Poll, first of all, because Poll was a place that still allowed the discussion because it had a different set of rules. Poll managed to organize an exodus for them to go to another site that would be more friendly to them, and that's how they ended up on 8chan, Hot Wheels site. I almost called it 8 Wheels. So that's what ends up happening. Now, what ends up happening in both of these cases is something very similar. People notice that moderation is heavier than usual. Some statement or decision is made in order to justify it. This does not make people happy, even though the operator of the site had every right to do that. It makes the users of the service unhappy. They decide that they're going to take their business elsewhere. That's the other half of freedom of association, right? Is that, yes, you have every right to kick people out of your service, but they also have every right to pack their bags and leave. And some of them decided to quit in a bit more dramatic of a way than usual. And you can see this on Reddit, you can see this on 4chan. When people want to be banned, they will break the rules on purpose, and that will get them banned. And that is one very effective way to quit a site, is to make it so you can't go there anymore. So why have I been going into these various different topics? And the reason is because I was recently banned from your Discord. And I humorously say, although it's actually quite accurate, that it was because I was posting Hoppian Vaporwave. Now, if you don't know what Hoppian Vaporwave is, there was a libertarian philosophy called Hans Hermann Hoppe, and he followed in the Rothbardian tradition, and he had a set of philosophies around libertarianism that are very unique. I'm not sure if Mystic Jojo is familiar with these. I know he calls himself an ANCAP, and Hoppe was also an ANCAP. I would suggest that he read some of his books if he's interested in the topic, but one of the things that Hoppe came up with was the following concept. Now, I haven't read his books either. I'm working my way through Rothbard right now, and I figure I should read Rothbard before I read Hoppe. But one of the things that he came up with was the idea that if the state was dissolved and libertarianism was realized, it wouldn't look like what the left libertarians think it would look like. In other words, if you're allowed complete freedom of association, following the non-aggression principle, right, you have the right to control who uses your property. If you have complete freedom of association, what that means is that you are then allowed to apply standards. And that means that all the degeneracy that the left libertarians are advocating for, well, those people aren't going to be allowed on people's properties, they're not going to be able to get jobs, they're not going to be able to exist in these various mini-societies that they're going to be a part of. In other words, they're going to have to keep that stuff in their bedroom. And that's just going to be a natural outcome of the dissolution of the state. Places will be able to hang signs that say, no Jews, no blacks, no communists, no whatever, because that's their right. They have every right to kick out the Jews and kick out the commies, because it's their property. So, as I've summarized in my TwitLogger, and I can do the quick summary, helicopter jokes were banned from your server, and the justification given was that they were against Discord's terms of service, because they were threats of violence, or they were... would you know Discord's wording here, Netscape?
Their exact wording, no. I mean, I figured that as long as we're just, having conversations and we're not planning to overthrow the U.S. government or anything, we should be pretty much good.
Yeah.
So I didn't really read them.
So it went a little bit farther than that. To justify it was basically, to my understanding from reading Liv's postings, someone posted something that actually possibly was advocating for violence. I don't know, it's been deleted, I can't see it. And alongside that, they posted a helicopter joke. I'm going to throw people out of helicopters, which is a reference to the acts of the Pinochet regime. Pinochet overthrew the communist regime in Chile and installed a military junta, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in its place, initiated radical capitalist reforms, but in the process had to toss a few communists out of helicopters. So the ban was no more jokes about tossing commies out of helicopters, and the rationale was because these are threats of violence and they're against Discord's terms of service. I engaged in a lengthy argument with Liv about these not being against the terms of service, and I went back and I searched through all of the history of them, and I found every single instance of a tossing people out of helicopters joke, and posted it in an Immigrant album to demonstrate that these were not credible threats, that anyone who's taking them seriously is not right in the head, and that there's not, the whole panic about helicopter jokes was overblown. It was ignored. We had a lot of banter back and forth, so I decided to perform a test. Step 1 of the test was to do a bit of Bane posting. For those of you who don't know, Bane posting is a reference to the opening scene of The Dark Knight Rises, where the villain Bane is taken aboard a airplane by a CIA agent named CIA, and CIA is interrogating the prisoners by threatening to throw them out of the aircraft, and then the scene concludes in a very violent manner by Bane's troops hijacking the airplane, shooting everyone, and then crashing the plane with no survivors.
Yes, I think we're all familiar with both Pinochet and Bane.
With no survivors!
But you'll see that Bane, or rather CIA, was also threatening to throw people out of an aircraft. And yet this very violent line of humor was completely allowed. So my next phase of my experiment was to go around posting radical capitalist things, which is really funny because Mystic Jojo is one, right? He's a radical capitalist. He's an ANCAP. And so I posted things from the Mises Institute. I posted some articles on Hayek. I posted, I forget what other article I posted, but then I started posting this Hoppawave, which was vaporwave music with the philosophy of Hans Hermann Hoppe and some fans of his talking about his philosophy overlaid on top of it. Now, there was a specific line in one of those videos that Liv took offense to. I'm going to see if I can find it here. I usually have this stuff prepared, so give me a moment. Alright, I'm looking through. So this was a phrase said by, it wasn't a quote from Hoppe himself, but it was because it was from someone who was a fan of his, who read his works and said that this is what he took from them. This is what he read into those words. And it was, the first one I remember, it was Hoppe dekiked libertarianism. Which is a really funny phrase if you really think about it. So, Hoppe dekiked libertarianism. That was the first phrase that was taken as greatly offensive. And the other phrase was, I'm still looking for it. Why is there a huge conversation about whether Cracker is racist against whites or not? Okay, I found it. Ignore that outburst. The other quote from the video was, again, from a fan of Hoppe, saying, "Leftists are subhuman animals who do not experience the world like we do. You realize that fucking killing them, it seems no more immoral than putting a fucking steak on a grill." That was a statement from the video. Now, these two statements, unkiking libertarianism was taken as a racial slur, which is apparently against your rules. And secondly, throwing leftists on a grill and cooking them being not an immoral thing, was also taken as a threat of violence. I think that that's a stretch. So, but I'll let you and your moderators debate whether or not I was really violating the rules, or whether this was just because I was offending the sensibilities of the moderators by being dicks to them, which I should add, there is a rule, don't be a dick wolf. That's very subjective. You'll have to discuss that as well. I will say the following. The moderators have every right to subjectively enforce the rules however they want to, and you have every right to create whatever rules you want to create. However, you have to be careful when you do that you don't cause exactly what happened to Art Games and exactly what happened to Moot on 4chan to happen to you. Because what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing people who break, if they think that the moderation is unfair or too heavy-handed or something like that. You're going to start seeing people intentionally break the rules. You're already seeing this with people posting scat. And then they're going to make an exodus. And I'm doing you a favor right now because I'm going to tell you, you are in the middle of an exodus right now. And unless you do something about it, you're going to have a very dead server with some very strict moderators who are ruling over nothing.
I don't really think that's going to happen. I mean, only like 4 people were banned. So
let's be real here. Multiple people have been banned over the last couple of weeks, and everybody else just left in general.
Yeah, over the past 48 hours, I think 5 people have been banned.
6 by my count, and many more under similar reasoning as what we've just outlined over the past couple months.
So, again, debate my banning as much as you want. If I'm let back in, I'm going to rub it in everyone's faces. Just a warning. But the conversation you really need to be having is not, do we let QQ back in, but what is wrong with our rules and our moderation that is causing this problem? Because it is a problem, and you can deny it's a problem as much as you want, but I'm telling you, you're going to end up with a dead-ass Teamspeak.
Discord.
Yes, Discord. Sorry.
I'm not too concerned about that. I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, reading through both what Liviana said and you pretty much confirming that this is what the video said, I mean, I can see why you were banned.
Yes.
The helicopter thing on its own right, I don't really have much of an issue with that. I said that to Liviana at the time when she messaged me about it. The helicopter thing, it's dumb, but it's not going to get us removed from Discord. It's not going to violate the Discord terms of service. Nobody really cares. Unless you're talking about a specific person on the Discord channel or someone who we know. But if you're talking about celebrities or you're talking about some famous professor or something, no one's really going to care.
So you think that saying that leftists are subhuman and that throwing them on a grill is not an immoral act, you view that as a credible threat?
Not a credible threat, but it's probably something that we shouldn't allow, especially with, well, not really, I'm not sure if we should allow it or not, but...
You realize that if you disallow that, that makes your TeamSpeak's rule, your Discord's rules stricter than Twitter's rules, stricter than Reddit's rules, and stricter than YouTube's rules, because this is a YouTube video, right? And I do believe that you've made videos on your channel criticizing the moderation practices on just about all of those platforms.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to, again, a point I'm going to hit upon briefly. Why exactly are you doing the exact same thing that your Discord is allegedly created to criticize and talk about? You know,
We're not.
You're doing
it's a chat room. It's a chat room with what? 100 people?
No,
97 online right now.
No.
The size is a distraction. You know that what I said is
true. We're not banning people from talking about certain topics. We're not saying, oh, you can't have a conversation. You can't have a conversation about conservatism or liberalism or whatever. When you start saying stuff like unkite libertarianism, yeah, you're sort of
didn't say that. I posted a video that said that.
Yeah, I'm loving this part because
there's no blatantly racist content. It doesn't necessarily say comments only. It says no blatantly racist content. And that was something that
YouTube has the same rules. Report the video to YouTube. See if they take it seriously. If they don't take it seriously, then you have created a system that is that does more censorship than YouTube does.
Oh, and I'm loving how I was banned because I lied to Mystic Jojo when I tried to argue they were being retarded by banning QQ because, we had this argument about free speech and all this shit, even though that wasn't jack shit of what I was talking about.
Yeah, well, Templar, you can't argue free speech with a libertarian. It doesn't work. Instead,
I don't argue free speech. I argue principles against censorship. GG is allegedly against censorship. And I say allegedly Because after the shit I've seen in your Discord, I have some serious questions about just how seriously you take that part. I mean, after all, earlier on you said, I don't like it when devs get censored for their vision and all this, and here you are engaging in similar behavior. Makes you think.
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, I think that we're having certain standards on the chat room, and that if you don't meet those, then you can go away. I don't really care. But you shouldn't...
The standards are more strict than the standards of platforms that you've criticized for their standards.
Necessarily. I don't really have a problem with... I do have a problem with the way Twitter works with their rules, and I do have a problem with... Well, Reddit, I'm not really super familiar with everything that's happened on Reddit. Individual subreddits. But on Twitter, the big thing is that they do not enforce the rules fairly. They do not enforce their rules against everybody equally. And so you'll see people on the left, or you'll see progressives or feminists getting away with things that a right-winger would be banned for.
I'm going to tell you that that's almost I would bet money. There's no way to prove it because Twitter's a black box, that's due to the systems that Twitter has created. In other words, since Twitter is a report-based platform, and people who are special snowflakes are more likely to report things that offend them, you're going to end up with uneven moderation. Likewise, I think you will probably find over time that you created a similar system in your own Discord, where there's certain people who are very sensitive, and they will use back channels to contact the moderators in order to get their sensibilities protected. And it's not going to be people like me, because that's not my style. It's going to be people who don't like me and don't like my political views who will do that, because they tend to have a very different set of views.
Right, I can't really speak to what Twitter's motivation is. If it's just that they're extremely lazy and they're not viewing all of the reports, or if it's just them dealing with mass reports. But still, it is a problem with them unfairly and unevenly enforcing their rules.
So, what's your rationale? So, explain to me how Hopawave is a problem for your server.
Well, look, it violated Rule 6, and you've been warned a few different times to just knock it off.
I've not been warned.
That's not what Liviana say.
Well, Liviana her evidence of that.
Just straight, don't listen to anything Liviana says. Ever. I don't know why you made her a mod. She hates everyone. She wants almost everyone, and they're gone. And most of the people she wanted gone left on their own. She was missing for months when you made her a mod. I have no idea what you were thinking.
And I'm going to tell you...
She was voted on by the rest of the mod team, and everyone unanimously confirmed her. Not a single other moderator said that.
All right, hold up. Don't pull that bullshit. Because I did know one of the moderators when that happened. They said resoundingly no, and they were completely ignored. And they did that for a while before they just left.
And you'll excuse me, Netscape, when I say I'm holding back from what I want to say, because I'm doing it in deference to the Puka, because I don't feel like screaming tonight.
I'm just going to tell you that what Rebel Lucy just said is not an isolated thing. I've heard that over and over and over again from person after person after person. I am not going to name them all, because that would invite some kind of retaliation, I'm sure. But I have heard over and over and over again exactly the same thing that Rebel Lucy said. So that's up to you to deal with, but that also points at something that I think is really fucked up. And that's what I wanted to conclude with. And that is that it has to be me who is the one to bring this to your attention. I would say, I can't prove it, but I think that the only reason that you're even having this discussion with me is because I'm an E-Celeb. I have a lot of videos on YouTube. I have a lot of followers on Twitter. So when I start to make a big stink about it, that means that it's a big deal that you have to deal with.
No, not at all. I mean, it wouldn't really matter who you are, QQ. For one, I mean, part of the reason I'm willing to have such a conversation with you at 12 in the morning, or 11:30 or whatever it was when we started, is because, one, I know you, and two, you know, I wanted to get your side of the story. I wanted to hear both sides of this before I
And I have
supported her decision.
a
or-
very simple
rescind-
response to that. You've probably been getting complaints like this for months, and yet it took the Puka over here to drag you out of your hole to finally do something that other people could actually see was being done.
I'd
Who
only
the fuck
received,
were you
I'd
for the
only
past
received
couple of
maybe
months?
2 or 3 complaints about Liviana as head moderator.
I call bullshit, given the amount of mods that are former and probably current, though I can't say because I have no clue. Given the complaints they've had about her, I will say you're lying through your teeth, and I don't believe you.
Well, I mean, you
But
can
then
think
again, that
once,
might be
but-
just because I have fucking known you for quite some time, and I find you to be a disingenuous cunt.
All right, well, you're free to think about me whatever you want. I don't really
It's
care.
not what I think. It's what your actions have indicated every fucking interaction I have ever had with you, mister. I'm going to donate $200 to Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh, come on. I was trolling on Twitter. It was
Troll!
pretty obvious.
I was only pretending to be retarded.
All right.
Anyone who thinks that after everything I've said about Anita Sarkeesian, all the times I've criticized
don't
her, I was
even
going to donate
care.
$200 to her
Nutscape.
is
Nutscape. Nutscrape.
All right, Templar.
I
That's
don't really think that.
I just wanted to use that at least once before we go.
I was going to drag
I'm
it.
trying to pull up the mod vote here. It was several months ago, so
Well,
Yo,
honestly, I think we should go pretty soon. If you have something that you want to have put in the description, message it to Raindrops. I believe you have Dan's Twitter.
yes.
He is in charge of this YouTube account. He can get it in the description for you. Other than that, I basically just wanted to say, I warned you, because a month from now,
you have,
I'm going to be able to point back at this and go, ha ha!
and I have only one real thing to say left, and that is, Mr. JoJo, please read some John Locke or Thomas Hobbes before you ever comment to me again about anything regarding the rights of man or how they work. Because it's clear you're just some edgy little teenager who discovered ANCAP because he didn't want to do the laundry anymore. And he even enjoys the idea of someone stepping foot on his property, giving him full authority to be able to call in an A-10 strike on the other guy's property for violating the non-aggression principle.
So, I have considered that there's one additional possibility, and that is that Netscape is too busy and honestly doesn't care about the Teamspeak anymore, in which case, I just wasted an hour. But, whatever. It was entertaining. I hope everyone was entertained.
Well, that's actually interesting. I mean, I don't really follow the Discord all that much. I don't really care all that much about, necessarily the inner workings of it. That's why I told before any serious decisions are made. And that way we could vote, all the moderators, or at least most of them, obviously, getting every single moderator to vote on something that could take days, as people are in different time zones, people might not necessarily see it. But a moderator vote, and if 5 people vote, and nobody else is online, nobody else decides, then more or less that'll be implemented. And obviously, if the other moderators come on and they outvote that decision, it'll be overturned. But
So, I'm just going to say...
I mean, that's why I created a head moderator position. That's why I created the moderator voting system.
So, I'm just going to
So
say...
that things like this could be dealt with while I'm not there, while I'm not paying attention.
I'm just going to say you owe back payments on your child support payments for the baby that you've created, and that your picture is probably now posted on the walls of rest stops around the country.
And all I'm going to note is, if you don't care so much, why do you still run the place?
I don't. I created a head moderator position for that
Give it to Liv.
Liviana she was voted in too.
So
by the
basically,
moderators.
you're admitting Liv is in fact de facto ruler of the Discord.
Yes, I'm pretty much only there to provide a check if there's some sort of big dispute with Liviana, such as this, for instance, and basically to just more or less run the logistics of it and promoting it on YouTube, things like that.
Will, excuse me if I take the less charitable interpretation of giving you the ability to throw that head moderator under the bus when it becomes time to blame someone when shit goes badly.
Yeah, hi Liv. When things go south, you're getting thrown under the bus. Just warning you.
Actually, no.
That's not going to happen.
I take it back.
Unless she makes a legitimate mistake. But
she's not getting thrown under the bus. She's getting thrown out of the helicopter.
Oh ho ho.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They keep accusing, like, saying this is all about fascism. This is all about fascism. What? What? Hopawave, however the heck you pronounce that, is like, how can the complete abolishment of the state and radical free market capitalism be fascism?
Because it enables those evil Nazis, Puka, and Nazis are clearly the first and only real say on what fascism is, am I right?
Yeah, well, I still think that whole talking behind my back after I'm banned thing is shitty. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, well, that seems to be a nasty, nasty habit those people have about talking about you, me, everyone else they ban behind their backs because they're so cowardly, so unable to deal with other people. They can't just come straight to my face and your face, my face, whoever's, and just say, I don't like you, I want you gone. You're horrible in all this. But anyway.
Alright, I think that's that. It's getting really late here. It's getting really late for you two. Do you have any concluding remarks that you would like to make?
I think a whole lot of nothing got done, and all of you kind of skipped around the key points.
Yeah, well, if Netscape really wants this to be solved, this is going to be an iterative process. However, I don't really think that he will. I don't think that we'll have another stream like this, even though it's much needed. Specifically, I think some of the other people who have been banned, who are in jail as well, would like to have a word directly with some of the moderators instead of going through an intermediary. So, is it a bit optimistic of me to hope for a commitment that will happen sometime in the future?
To hope for a commitment, obviously I cannot force people to do something. I cannot force them to go on a live stream if they don't want to. But, I mean, I would like to do another stream. You know, I would like to get Liviana and Myriad Truce and Mystic Jojo and everyone else on board and have a conversation about this. But, to be honest, looking at some of the comments here in the moderator chat, I don't think that's going to happen. Not because I don't want them to, but because I've already talked to Dark Moon Owl. He seems like he's interested.
Your users have no respect for your moderators, and your moderators have no respect for your users. That's why.
They believe themselves to be the arbitrary arbiters of what is and is not about this Discord. They don't care what the community thinks. And they're going to basically talk absolute mad shit, both to their backs and to their faces in that Discord, because they are so fucking arrogant. They think that the users are just going to sit there and take it.
Look, I used to, during that whole GG Revolt 3.0 thing, I had respect for Mystic Jojo and how Mystic Jojo handled it. However, I had no idea that Mystic Jojo had any problem with me whatsoever until I saw that he, she, whatever, I don't know, I don't care, was talking about me behind my back. And that just caused my respect to go to zero. And that makes me think, if your moderators have that little respect for someone who's done them no wrong whatsoever, just because they show a sign of disrespect for an authority figure, why is anyone still there?
Well, if people want to leave, obviously they're welcome to leave, but I think most of the people are probably going to end up staying.
I can tell you right now you're wrong, because half of your server is already gone and in my friend's Discord. And we didn't really even want them there. We wanted it to stay a tiny, small, friendly Discord. And it went from 6 people to almost 50 people in less than a month.
Well, I haven't seen much of a drop off. I mean,
because you just admitted that you don't care and you haven't been paying attention.
Or else you would know that your Discord interactions have gone down from thousands a day to maybe 10, 20 interactions a day.
You are the new Moot. You are the new R Games. Welcome to your new life.
The lounge here, we've got tons of posts from yesterday, just alone.
Yeah, because everyone's arguing about what just happened.
Well, I'm going through it now. It looks like a lot of it's just like people talking about random stuff, not necessarily related to you, QQ, or the banning, or Liviana's moderatorship.
Or the definition of cracker.
Apparently.
Yeah, which is related to Liviana's moderatorship.
I mean, I could almost name a majority of whoever is talking.
Moderators who are willing to talk to you. Dark Moon Owl says that he might be free tomorrow to talk to you. I can give you his Twitter if you want to talk to him about his thoughts on this.
It's going to be a while before I do another one of these because I have to work tomorrow, and doing this tonight's going to be just completely zonk me. But if we can get something together in not a day's time, but like a week's time, or maybe more than that, that would be fine. And I would really not like. I think our issue is done. You basically say that you enjoy censoring more than Twitter or YouTube, and you're fine with me being booted. I know that's not your exact words, and you'd probably dispute it, but that's how I interpret it. Is you're fine with your moderator's decisions to boot me. So we're done. Not like us, like personally, we're done. Although we'll see about that. But
that's up to you, QQ.
I don't have a problem. Our conversation
personally.
Our conversation about me trying to get back in there, that's basically done. You've denied my appeal.
No, I mean, basically, it would have to go to a moderator vote. And right now, I've only talked to a few people about this in the moderator team because most of them are online right now.
And your moderator team is dominated by people who don't like dissent. So
I mean, I'm just saying, Liviana's probably going to vote to keep the ban. Mystic JoJo's probably going to vote to keep the ban, though you could maybe argue that they might have to recuse themselves because they are personally involved in this. So you
or
can
I can argue maybe you need to stop talking to your mods and try talking to some of your users for once. Or maybe, try getting in touch with some of your former mods and ask them point blank what their honest thoughts on the situation are.
I mean, I might do that, but the thing is, most of the former moderators, they left because either one, they were too busy with real life stuff, or two, because they were just too busy having to deal with all the constant drama. Because there was a lot of drama, 2 months ago during the Rebel Lucy incident.
Whether you choose to follow up on them or not is your decision.
Devo, these excuses don't work with me because me and Robot Maid are actually really close friends. So I know specifically what Robot Maid told you. So you can't give me that line of BS that they left because they were just too busy. That doesn't work here.
We'll have to look at exactly what Robot Maid said, what he said, but I didn't mention them by name.
Did you just misgender that boy, you piece of shit?
No, I know you didn't mention them by name, but I know for a fact that I can list out a couple people that would say you're just outright lying with that.
Why don't we hold off until we get their permission to do that? Because I don't want to out anyone right now. I've been very careful about making sure that when I say there are people who dissent, that I'm not outing them right now.
Here's the thing. I don't know why we have to sit here in a public room and do this. The fact that you just don't want to talk unless it's on a public record is weird to me.
So
it would just kind of.
I'll talk in private too. I don't care if you live stream it or not.
Rami says you have my permission. He's a liar, just like Johnny Fox.
Thanks, Rami.
Yeah, I mean Rami was removed too. I mean that's 2 mods down. And it's not like you have a whole bunch of mods. 5 people.
And all I'm seeing is the same disingenuous, damage-controlling shit I always see whenever Netscape ends up in trouble. Because he doesn't have a pair of nuts to come out and say, this is how I do shit, fuck you, this is how I run my ship, and owning it. Well, instead, he has to dance around like a little monkey.
I'm noticing a troubling pattern of someone makes a claim, Netscape goes, no, that's not how it was at all, this is how it actually went down. And then several people either create a consensus that says, no, he's lying, or they directly show evidence that he's full of BS, and then the subject is just kind of dropped. I don't think that's a good pattern.
When has that ever happened, QQ? When has that ever happened?
Just. Rami in the chat of the stream just called you out on your BS. And that's not the first time it's happened during this stream.
It's not as if we just had a thing where you said one thing about how things are run. Oh, I don't care about this anymore because I don't really check in. Oh, I know what's going on because I've logged in. You're saying completely opposite things because you know you've been caught in a lie. You've been caught with your pants down. And now you know that everyone's going to realize you're one of two things. A, lying and actually approve of what your mods are doing because you have nothing but contempt for your community, or B, a clueless buffoon that has no idea what he's doing and has now gotten so far in over his head, he's like, I just need someone I can throw under the bus to make this stop. I don't like this.
No, I could provide proof that I was telling the truth in regards to moderators, the previous moderators quitting primarily because they were too busy with real life stuff.
Shit.
Person who's quit the mod team or has been removed from the mod team did so because they were too busy with real life or they didn't feel like dealing with the drama anymore? No. But like I said, I didn't say all of them. I said most of them.
Look who just showed up in the chat. Liv just showed up in the chat, accusing me of racism. I'm just gonna and posting Nazi stuff. Wait, Nazi stuff? Liv, read a book. And may I suggest you start with Hans Hermann Hoppe? If you think that Hoppe is a Nazi, I got something coming for you. Nazism, National Socialism, where they nationalize the industry, that's pretty much the opposite of anarcho-capitalism. Heck, you're friends with an anarcho-capitalist. Why don't you just ask Jojo? Ask Jojo if Hoppe is a Nazi, because I think that you'll get quite a few chuckles out of them.
Assuming they're actually an ANCAP that has studied a damn thing about anarcho-capitalism or its fucking philosophies that go into it. I highly doubt they have, but what do I know? Maybe they have.
You accuse me of hate? I'm scrolling up right here. You said you get to post Nazi stuff on the basis of free speech in a privately owned Discord. No, I wasn't banned for Nazi stuff.
Well, you were banned for the anti-Semite. He unkiked libertarianism.
Yeah.
Although that was a side comment or remix.
Like,
That's
it's like posting that image.
I'll make sure that I don't post any Eminem because Eminem said all those things about gay people and whatever. I mean, is that really the standard? The words in the music that you listen to and post are going to be the basis for your views?
I mean, after all, if we're going to ban people because he unkiked libertarianism, are we going to ban niggas with attitude because of their album Cop Killer as well? I mean, after all, a lot of rap has nothing but contempt for law figures and advocates murdering them in the streets.
And yes, you said you're claiming that I made a free speech argument. Netscape can attest, Liviana, that free speech is not the argument that I made whatsoever. In fact, I outright said at the start of this stream that freedom of association supersedes freedom of speech. Did I not say that?
I love how they keep going with that fucking bullshit argument.
Yeah, more free speech, more free speech. Where have I heard that before? Huh, makes you think, where have I heard that before? I mean, I've heard...
Peach!
Free speech was the motto of the Atheism Plus block bot. And more free speech was what Randy Harper used to say, isn't it?
Yeah, really makes you think. And I'm loving how Netscape is just sitting there real quiet.
No, I'm here. I was actually talking to somebody on Twitter. You wanted to talk to another moderator. I have another moderator who just came online, so...
So, Liviana, have you read the philosophies of Hans Hermann Hoppe yet? And do you understand the point of view of the people who were given those speeches? Because I don't think you understand them. If you think that there's some kind of fascism involved, you definitely don't understand them.
Alright, can I just be the nice person here for a second and just get things back on track and just ask some basic questions?
Be my guest.
Okay, so obviously I'm pretty sure I understand the purpose of most of the rules. Is there kind of like an inclusivity thing, which would be the no overt racism, right? Make sure everyone is correct.
It's what I call free speech utilitarianism. The concept is that...
Well, I'm asking Gabe.
Okay, you can answer.
I just have like a train of thought.
Porcelain Chips, your microphone isn't working?
It isn't?
Okay, now it is.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Oy vey. Did you draw the short one?
So, in your own words, what is the purpose of a rule like racism?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. It's to not allow people to post racist stuff. Pretty straightforward.
Why?
That's not a reason, though. That's the effect. What is the reason?
Circular reasoning, in fact. We have a rule that allows X so that people don't post X.
Well, we had a couple of trolls who were posting a bunch of Nazi stuff.
So it was to get
Nazi
rid of trolls.
pictures.
Am I a troll?
As far as I can tell, well, QQ, you troll sometimes, quite a bit, but I don't think that you are trolling all the time. You mix in trolling with your legitimate views. So
let me take that in a different direction. I have no problem with banning spam. Spam is a problem everywhere. Chats, people physically cannot speak properly. I have no problem with spam. But the no overt racism is too loose, and you're saying that you're using it to deal with what is effectively spam. But what is the specific reason for no overt racism?
Well, I mean, part of it was because of the spam, but also part of it was to stop actual racists from trying to come on. People from GG Revolt, some of them are pretty racist. We did not want them on board.
So basically, you're admitting you don't like certain people and want them gone. So
yeah, I don't like. Yeah,
like I said.
Pretty much,
No,
I don't like.
no.
I don't like.
I
I don't
want
like
you
people
on
who are
record
actual
admitting
bigots.
that.
I do not want them on board.
Wait,
I made that pretty clear in the live stream about the rules. Did we want actual racists on our Discord? No.
Well,
really quick, before you do that, I need to clarify something, because this is an interesting insinuation that you're making here. You're saying you made the rule to get racists banned. It got me banned. Do you think I'm a racist?
No, I don't think you're a racist. I think that you play it fast and loose with the rules on purpose to screw around and to try to get a response from people. That's how you operate, QQ. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just you've done this forever. You've purposely tried to skirt the rules as close as possible.
So again, your rule is acting in a way that's not intended, and I suggest that you make Rule 11 or Rule 12, which is no pukas.
No, let me continue, because I do have like a direction I'm going with this. Well, then, in that case, do you consider yourself for the principle of free speech?
No.
I mean, yes, for the most part.
Principle.
But how can you be, for the most part, freedom?
I'm gonna
like what is most?
I don't think that there should be. I don't think there should be any government restrictions. I think
but if
hold on,
I'm talking about you.
This.
No, Templar, I'm gonna let him do it. That's the purpose of it, is to let him make his own case. Explain your.
I don't think there should be. I don't think there should be government restrictions on speech unless it's something like yelling fire in a crowded theater or inciting violence directly.
Call to action.
Slander and libel, of course, but that's civil law. That's not necessarily.
But not government. Not the law of free speech.
So
the principle.
The way I see it.
Speech.
The way I see it, I think for the most part, the best way to defeat different ideas is to hear them out and to argue against them for the most part. But I think that if you're running, let's say, a guild or a chat room or a forum, and someone is obviously posting a bunch of stuff that the vast majority of the community doesn't want to see because it is, let's say, racist, then you should remove it, or at least you should have the option to remove it as the owner of a private website or a private guild or a private chat room.
If they're not spamming, what is your justification for that? It's different when you're in a guild because you're in there playing the game.
Gamergate is an egalitarian movement. I mean, the whole thing was we don't actually hate women. We hate this extreme social justice ideology.
And now we're getting into what GG is about, and I'm going to straight up say, Netscape, as a guy who has been here longer than you have, you don't know jack fucking shit.
Well, you're free to your.
I'm trying to be
I'm
nice and keep this going in a specific direction and
But
try
go
not
on.
to devolve into the insults and just keep it
Fine.
moving forward.
Fine, go on, Rebel. I'll mute for a moment. This better pay off.
But in that case, just kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But continue what you were saying before Templar chimed in, and I'll probably pick it back up.
Okay, so I don't think the government should be involved in regulating freedom of speech, except obviously in those very, very clear-cut extreme cases that I think most people would agree on, such as incitement of violence, things like that, slander, libel, things like that. But if you're running a private chat room, or if you're running a private forum, or if you're running whatever, and you don't want a certain type of speech being allowed, like, for instance, racist speech in the case of the Discord, then you should be allowed to make that rule. And you should be allowed to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're clear across the board. You should ban racists who hate white people and ban racists who hate black people.
And I can agree with you should have the right to do that. And I don't judge people for doing that. I run a gaming server, and basically if it's not on topic about the game, you go. And that's how we run it. But you're in a server that was centered around ethics and free speech. And when you make a server for something centered around ethics and free speech, and you say, okay, we're only sort of about free speech, only to our degree. As soon as you're out of our degree, you're out. You can't really say you're for free speech anymore.
Well, we're for free speech in games.
Free speech in games.
You're gonna find people. You're gonna find people with a wide variety of views on freedom of speech in Gamergate.
Even though
let me finish. Let me finish, Templar. Let me finish. I didn't cut you off.
I don't care, Netscape, because you're going in a place, and I'm just going to stop you from going over the edge. But please continue.
I was just going to say that you're going to find a lot of people with a lot of different views on freedom of speech, even within Gamergate. They're not always going to 100% agree that 100% free should be allowed everywhere. You're not going to find every single person hold that view. You're going to find some people hold that view. You're going to find some people who think that there should be government restrictions preventing private companies from setting their own rules. You're going to have people in the middle who are like, I don't really care what they do. I might criticize their actions, but I don't necessarily think they should be banned from doing that. You're going to have a number of different viewpoints on freedom of speech, on what exactly should be allowed and shouldn't be allowed in any particular community.
I'm going to tell you something that I keep seeing that's really, really cancerous, and that's what I called free speech utilitarianism. I brought it up a moment ago. And that is the concept that the free speech ideal should be that we have the most speech and the highest quality speech. Some nexus of those two. And if that means we have to ban and censor people who are saying things that are preventing others from speaking, then we need to do that because these other people have higher quality speech. So if these people are saying things that are keeping these other people from speaking, they deserve to be silenced. The issue with that is the issue with all utilitarianism. The utility function is not all that reliable, and whoever ends up deciding what is and is not utility ends up basically having a little mini dictatorship over what does and does not get said.
And I will reiterate, before you went down this line of thought, Netscape, you're trying to argue this over an incident that got started because a bunch of private companies decided to go delete fucking everything about this because it was embarrassing and they didn't want to see it and they didn't want to deal with it, or any number of reasons. For you to go ahead and make the argument you just made, then the backdrop of that to me is incredibly disingenuous, to say the least.
No, I don't think so, because here you're talking about actual issues with ethics, actual issues with the censorship of games that is being censored. If I want to say this, if all Gamergate was actually hating women, was actually supporting harassment or whatever, if that's what Gamergate actually was, then I would have no problem with those companies deciding to censor that discussion.
And I will say, if you think that's what GG was about at any point until your cancerous brand of shit started taking hold, I will again pull rank and say, you don't know shit of what you speak, and you need to sit down, sonny boy, and listen to your elders.
My brand of shit seems to be working quite well. How many censorship campaigns have there been? Huh? And in the past, let's say 6 months, year and a half,
Let's
pretty
see.
much none.
Are you counting the ones in your server?
No, I'm talking about games.
Let me ask you this,
Pretty much none.
my friend.
Why is that? Is it because our arguments have won out? And it's not because we decided to spurg out. It's because we actually made solid cases and solid arguments for why our ideas are better.
Give an example of censorship in your view, because I want to know exactly how you're defining it. Because somehow
you don't even need to do that. You can't You can't demonstrate cause and effect. You just simply cannot demonstrate cause and effect.
Here's the thing: is GG only exists because gamers are diverse, and you have to admit that. That's the that there's a whole movement we had. Shield was our diversity because gamers are diverse. We have a wide variety of opinions, of colors, of religion.
But it sounds an awful lot like to me like Templar wants Gamergate to not be diverse. That he wants it to be only his brand.
I'm loving how you're making that argument when I'm saying GG started off because some dude posted a thing basically saying a developer slept with a journalist and talking about all that, and everyone's like, a fucking person is now sleeping with a journalist, and I use that word very incredibly loosely in this context, to basically get coverage for her game. Right. And then everyone went, no, let me finish.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She then went full, Ray, you need to delete all this. And then everyone's like, delete fucking everything. And then everyone got real fucking pissed.
So I'm just going to speculate that if it wasn't for the historical context of IA's videos, you'd probably have banned me if I had posted. You probably would have said that it was acceptable to ban me for posting those instead, because of all the horrible things that he said in them. And that is really funny, actually, first of all. And second, the second thing is, I have a feeling that if some poor lady who was saying that they were harassed online and they needed moderation to step in came to your mods, just like Zoe Quinn came to our games' mods, you would have had exactly the same crackdown on your server.
Really? Because we actually have an incident of that actually happening on my server. Pinkerbell actually came to me and the other moderators and said that...
Was Liv a mod then?
I do not believe so, but I mean, she might have been.
Nope, not a mod.
I don't believe so.
This was on her AFK spree.
Count.
Also, I think it would depend on if it was actually happening. If you had a bunch of people who purposely said, hey, let's all go destroy this person's life because she's a woman. Obviously, if that were actually the case, I'd be fine with removing that. But if it was just her lying and saying, oh, this is what's happening, they're trying to destroy my life, and you look into it and it's like, yeah, no, that's actually not what's happening.
I also
take any action.
Sorry, but are you finished? In the event you are, I also love how you're trying to imply diversity, as if you're trying to imply that I'm some kind of racist or something. That
was not my opinion. I did not say my diversity. That was Rebel Lucy talking about the diversity of gamers. Right. I believe.
I never got to finish that.
No,
let me just real quick go over it.
All right, I'm going to give you all about 5 minutes to wrap it up, and then we're really wrapping it up, okay?
Right, here was the thing, is I'm saying that you are intentionally squelching diversity. You are saying there are these diverse opinions, they need to go. And Templar is saying, stop banning diverse opinions, just let them go, and the good ones will rise to the top. And that is true diversity, and that's what gaming has been for years.
We've got plenty of people in the Discord, both moderators and users, who are conservative, who are liberal, who are anarcho-capitalist, who are libertarian, you name it. We've got a large, wider views on both the mod team and the user base.
You're not going to have many Hoppy and ANCAPs in there now, are you?
You're not going to have.
That depends. I don't really have I don't think there's anything necessarily inherently wrong with advocating that companies should be able to put up signs that say no blacks or no Jews allowed. I mean, I don't really think that private businesses should be allowed to do that, especially given
you just contradicted
when these
yourself.
laws were implemented. It was.
You said that you are fine with it, but then you said you don't think that they should be allowed to.
No, I'm fine with people having that opinion. I don't think that is an inherently racist.
Here, this is an important question to go with that. Is if you believe that on a private property you can get rid of whatever you want, and that is your major opinion here, is that on your private property you have control. Why is that suddenly limited when it comes to race or sexuality or anything else?
In short,
Few
why
different-
can't? Why
Well, I think
can't
there's
I?
a few different good reasons, but I'll let you go ahead.
Can I just
Lucy,
point out the irony of using free association as an excuse to ban someone for posting radical propaganda about free association?
I was just going to say businesses
Go
should be allowed to discriminate based on race. Well, first off, we have to look at when these laws were implemented. Segregation had just ended. These laws were actually part of the reason.
Stop. Justify your belief. Historical rundown. I know the historical rundown. I'm not an idiot. Justify your belief system and how you deal with this inherently contradictory belief.
I don't view it as inherently contradictory, but so I would say that private businesses, I mean, for the most part, I think they should be allowed to set their own rules, set their own policies. So no shirts, no shoes, no service. Okay, fine, whatever. You know that they should be allowed to do that, right?
But what if you're new?
But when it comes to discriminating against people based on their race or based on their gender and stuff like that, I don't think. Well, gender is a little bit different because I don't necessarily have. Obviously, businesses should not be allowed to discriminate. But if you have like a gentleman's club or something like that, I don't really care. Or if you have like
So
even like
now
the
you're
female.
getting- So basically, what you're
Screaming,
saying is you have no consistent principle you're applying here with regards to freedom of association.
No, I do.
No, it's
No,
freedom.
I do.
of
I don't think that businesses should be allowed to
It's
discriminate
freedom
based
of
on this because
association asterisk with some restrictions apply is what you're arguing. Okay, just come out
because
and
I mean you
say
have to have some restrictions on pretty much everything. You have to have restrictions. I mean, there's restrictions on freedom of speech that I think most people could get behind. I think there's restrictions on most of our rights that most people would agree are reasonable.
and those usually come out of principles of some kind that interlock with each other. Yours just seem to be based on my fifis, but Rebel, I'll let you go.
No, I don't. So I don't think that if you have, I don't think you have like let's say a gas station, and in the middle of let's say Arizona, who needs gas because of their skin color or because of their gender, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. For instance, that's just one example. Or a grocery store. I don't really see a problem.
We got all that. Rebel, could you go, please? Because I get that this is 5 minutes and this would go on for hours. I would be rather to argue this, but the puka has to sleep sometime.
Yeah, I know. It's just the bulk of the issue is these views, no matter what, will never be consistent. And the problem is you're viewing it completely wrong, in my opinion. You'll say, well, we have restrictions on free speech. Well, in America specifically, no, we don't. Restrictions against call to action is not restricting your free speech, which is why we specifically defined it differently. We're saying you can't call to hurt someone else. You can't call to action. We're not talking about your speech anymore. We're talking about what you're doing, your actions.
I think that the free speech argument is a dead end when there's people like Liv Vienna and Mystic Jojo around. I think if you're going to try and appeal to that principle, you're going to fall on deaf ears. Just saying.
Well, I can't speak for them. I don't know exactly what their views are on free speech. I haven't had that conversation with them.
I can. They don't believe the principle is separate from the me.
Hello? Are you there?
Repeat that. You cut up.
Yeah, I mean, I can say it, is neither of them believe the principle is separate from the law. I've had direct conversation with them on this.
And I can certainly testify to that conversation. Mystic Jojo is a moron who has no clue of the difference between something that's legal, something that's moral, something that's a core principle, and apparently lumps all that shit together under the same fucking roof. But
and Templar was actually banned for arguing about that, if I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, Templar?
I would say I was, because she's like, you're lying. You're lying. Even though that wasn't at all what I was saying.
So did anyone else want to chime in? We got probably like 2 minutes left. Porcelain, I think you said you wanted to wait your turn.
Yeah, if I can just butt into the middle of this after it not having been in the discussion, and obviously not coming in with the full context, but still thinking that I have something to say. Maybe is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think a big problem with sort of this issue here that's going on is it sounds like there's a misperception, or nobody can agree on sort of like Lucy said, nobody can quite agree on the scaling of free speech here. And I think you can say that you're for free speech, but then on the private Discord server, or Discord server being run by a small group of people, you can then say on that level, there's more restrictions, but that is not, in contradiction or in total hypocrisy to the free speech thing. One other point, I'm trying to summarize my thoughts here, just so I won't take up your time and you guys can get back to talking. But another aspect, I think, is that part of the reason why it is important for in GG situations to try to be careful about monitoring the amount of like racist commentary or like jokes spinning around or whatnot is that sadly our opponent base is really keen on zeroing in on connecting us and associating us with things we're not associated with, we're not connected to all the time. And so sadly, it leads to wanting to try to control that kind of stuff a bit as a method of preventative or self-protection from being framed and from being taken out of context and being misrepresented. And it's something that I think nobody really wants to have to do, but it's that we keep getting beaten down all the time and being labeled as things that we're not all the time, that it kind of pushes people in the direction of wanting to take some proactive measures to prevent themselves from being misrepresented.
So I'm just going to say something here. That argument is very much, if I were to summarize it, it's that someone might take our actions and create bad publicity for us based upon them. So we need to be careful what we say so that we don't cause bad so we don't cause bad publicity. Would you say that that's an accurate assessment, an accurate summary?
Yeah, and it's something we don't want to do. It's something that adamantly goes against a lot of our natures, but the problem is it keeps happening. I've found this in many debate streams where people
let me just stop you right there, because I'm going to say the following. Why do you care about what your opponent thinks about you? Shouldn't you be caring more about what your allies think of you? And related to that, isn't me making streams like this creating a whole lot more negative PR for your community than some rando SJW saying there are a whole bunch of racists over there? That's what they're going to say no matter what you do. When you have people who are allies who are causing negative PR because of your actions, that's what you should really be worried about, not some rando who got offended.
Well, so I just came in a little bit ago, but from everything I've heard so far, what I've heard is that you guys are having a very generally respectful back and forth debate conversation about the issue at hand, and I do not hear you guys trying to just absolutely smear or misrepresent each other. You're being pretty fair back and forth, and you're keeping an open dialogue. And so I don't necessarily see that as bad PR, because I think QQ and Rebel and Templar and Netscape, you're openly speaking to each other. Where the other side is much more keen on actually causing just direct harm without any fair play involved.
Well, let's get to that right now. I'm just going to say it right here. I think that Netscape's community has horrible moderation. I think that they have two megalomaniacs who are looking for reasons to ban people, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone use it. And in fact, I would recommend that they go to just about any other Discord server.
And that's your opinion. And you should be allowed to have that opinion, and you should be allowed to voice that opinion. And nobody should be allowed to say other.
You're a racist is also an opinion.
Yeah, and
Like-
I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the whole PR argument. Well, let me put it this way, Porcelain. Do you think Donald Trump gives one iota of a fuck about all those blue check marks that say dumb shit on his timeline? Do you think he cares what people necessarily think outside of his support base?
I honestly,
yes.
at this point, have a very poor perception of what Donald Trump actually
That's
thinks.
not really relevant. I'm just asking, do you think he cares about what anyone thinks outside of his voter base? Just yes or no.
I don't think he cares.
Well, that's my point. Trump only cares when his base has a problem with something. He doesn't care what CNN thinks. He will call them fake news to his face, directly insult the reporters and all that other shit, because the people who watch CNN are very unlikely to be voting Trump in the first place, and they're not the majority. It's the same shit with SJWs. I don't care what they think. I want them gone. I want them to shut the fuck up and to get out, because their actions always are a detriment to every community they come into. I only give one iota of a fuck about other people's opinions with regards to GG in terms of what my quote-unquote allies in GG think, because they're the only people who actually play video games, are members of those communities that actually give a fuck about their health, and all that other good shit. Everything else is fucking noise, is what I'm getting at.
I absolutely understand where you are coming from from having this perception, this opinion. Where I do disagree with you on this point is that I personally do not care what the Tumblr echo chamber thinks of me, but what I do care is that they have an agenda to affect the neutral party. And I would not invest a tremendous undue amount of time trying to make myself look a certain way, but perhaps it would make sense to try to put in a few rules in a group to try to, alleviate or prevent some, an undue amount of issues.
You're talking a PR disaster. Well, not to be a dick about it, but did you see the link that Rebel Lucy posted, the canceled Far Cry 5? Let me put it this way. Forbes is the only outfit that figured out that that petition was nothing more than a bunch of Ubisoft employees doing a PR stunt. Everyone else ran with misogynistic hate babies. It doesn't matter what you do. Your enemy will invent shit about you that is not true and cannot be disproven, because, as the old saying says, by the time the truth has put on its shoes, the lie has traveled around the world 5 times.
You cannot prevent everything, but you can try to
I am saying the amount of energy you need to expend to prevent it is so... I'm trying to think of a word here, monumentally fucking bigger than the energy it takes to create a lie and have it stick enough that enough people will be convinced and they'll repeat it.
Well, here's the thing. This can be simplified. Like you two are kind of going around. This can be simplified. Extreme is if we're going to just warriors want us to do, what's the difference? Like if we're just going to cave to all their beliefs and change our entire community to suit what they're calling us anyways, what's the point of fighting them off?
You concede so much ground, you've in essence become them.
So
okay, so I'm sorry.
I want to address this question of mine.
Yes.
It's here's the thing, though. There's actually, you're wrong about nobody else realizing that it wasn't us. Geek.com, actually, we, myself and a few other people reached out to.
Does not change.
No, I'm pointing out. We reached out to them, and we actually convinced the guy who wrote the piece that he was wrong.
And
but also, more to the point.
Have you done any
more to the point, though?
to see what they've done, but that doesn't
matter. He published a huge, 4-paragraph update on the article saying that he was wrong about this and that he apologizes. But here's the thing, Templar. Here's the thing. I want to point this out. So, Gamergate did not create the petition. We don't support the petition.
That's
I think
not
pretty much everyone here.
Point of it being
No.
I always think it's silly when people say Gigi did this or Gigi did that. Did you get every single person who's ever used the hashtag into a big conference room and had them vote on it?
No, but here's the thing. The vast majority of people in Gamergate didn't support the petition. We didn't say, "Oh, we should cancel this game because."
Did you get everyone who's ever used the hashtag into a conference room and have them vote on it? That's how you tell if a majority did something or not.
No, but you can actually look at what people are saying, both on Twitter, on Reddit, on wherever, and actually see what they're saying, and actually engage with the community and find out what the vast majority of the people believe, more or less.
So you can take it.
We should not be bad people. We should not ally ourselves with bad people and do bad things because, hey, we're going to get bad PR anyway. Might as well become the monsters that they claim we are. We shouldn't go out there and become actual racists and actual sexists
die with
just because Kotaku. So you think we should become an actual racist just because Kotaku called us a racist?
No, but I think that we should become the type of person who listens to Hoppy and Vaporwave without being banned for it.
You can listen to whatever you want. I don't care. I mean, posting that there is probably not the best idea.
Yeah, it clearly wasn't the best. Actually, it was the best idea because I haven't laughed so hard in ages once I found out that was what I was banned for. I thought that was ridiculous, and I think that everyone else thinks it's ridiculous too. And here you guys defend it as some kind of a noble and principled position against racism or violence or whatever is really funny.
But Templar, how is your argument different? I do want to hear this. If we should, cozy up with actual Nazis, if we should, even far worse, become actual Nazis.
Let me put it this way, Netscape. 1, that ain't my argument. 2, does Donald Trump care to disown David Duke? I'm going to keep... He did not. For a long time, he did fuck all. He did not even want to address it. He's like, why do you give a fuck about this person? In fact, they interviewed one of his black supporters and said, what do you think of David Duke? And his response encompasses what I think. He's out for attention. Why are you giving it to him?
Can I just ask, I'm on geek.com right now. This update is complete horseshit. Like, have you read it? This entire update is just...
doesn't agree with Gamergate still. He still doesn't really agree with us, but he was wrong that we created the...
No, read further down. He states directly that this came from Gamergate's ideals, just Gamergate didn't do it.
Yeah, I think that was it too, but...
I wouldn't really call that an update, but just kind of made it worse.
That you're focusing on small little things that in the big picture don't matter. I'm talking big picture. Why do you think I keep citing stuff like what Donald Trump does with CNN or other things like that?
Because you're a Trump supporter and you want to bring him up.
No.
Yeah.
I may be
using what Donald Trump says and does as some sort of great way that movement should form themselves.
That the way he does things gets results. Or do I need
what
to
is
point
his
out?
What is his approval rating?
Hey,
go ahead. What is his approval? 38%?
Netscape.
Doesn't seem to be working out too well for him.
Netscape. The man was not supposed to get the Republican nomination. The man was not supposed to become president. Where is he now? Do you honestly, for the love of God, believe that argument holds any goddamn water?
Okay, I'm just going to say, on the hour, I'm hanging up.
Okay, my whole point, though, is to get at, he's had to deal with no less of a situation Gigi had to deal with, and you'll notice, whereas you're just floundering and basically cowering because of what the evil SJWs might do.
No, I'm not cowering because of them. I don't care what they think. I don't care
just cutting
what
off
Anita Sarkeesian or Zoe Quinn says about Gamergate.
Let me finish my point, but that's fine.
Oh, go ahead, Kidfall. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point. We got like 3 minutes.
Rather than caring about the SJWs, Donald Trump simply took his message directly to the people, said what he thought. Some people didn't like it. Other people really liked it. Some misinterpreted, blah, blah, blah. But he still kept going and doing what he did.
Your metaphor is really bad, Templar. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to summarize it right here. You can be an extremely successful person and not care about what quote-unquote your opponents think whatsoever, and not care about what the moderates think or what the neutrals think or anything like that. In fact, if you take an extreme position, you will attract more neutrals to your cause than if you take a milquetoast position.
Because at least they say, I may not agree with his points, but at least he seems to have principles. Whether or not
I don't
he
think
actually
anybody
does,
is saying that about Trump.
why then do you see plenty of fucking Sikhs, Hindus that are fresh off the boat voting for him?
But Trump is an obfuscation here. Like, you're
Fine.
using a specific example of a general phenomenon.
Yeah,
And-
I agree. So maybe you should go with the general phenomenon. I'm just trying to make it so that everyone's on the same page so I don't have to keep fucking, doing all that shit.
You can yes and yourself into agreement with anyone, but if you look at what you've given, the ground that you've given up along the way, it's rarely worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not giving up ground though. The thing is, I'm not saying, oh, well, I'm going to meet these SJWs in the middle and try to come to some sort of compromise. That's not what I've been saying since the beginning.
Moderating your community to the point where it's indistinguishable from an SJW style community, but you claim you're not SJW. Looks like a duck.
No, my community
like
has pretty much the same rules as pretty much any online gaming forum. Go to MMO Champion or Space Battles.
Ruined for years because of these people. Or
Most of them are still-
Templar,
most of them are
why are
pretty
you
still
losing
awesome.
to Netscape? How are you managing this? I didn't think that this was
I am
physically
So,
possible.
tired, and
Templar.
we're going around in circles on shit that really doesn't matter because he knows he can't actually attack the argument directly.
Yeah.
Hey Templar, if you go to MMO Champion or wherever and you voice a conservative opinion, you won't be banned. But if you go out there and say, gas the kikes, race war now, you're going to be banned.
And if I say I don't think people who don't share Western values should be allowed in Western countries, I'd be banned. It's not the tone, it's the idea being expressed.
No, I don't think so. There are a lot of people who voice similar opinions. Though quite a few of the gaming forums I go to, Team Liquid, MMO Champion. I've seen similar opinions.
Netscape.
No, I've seen plenty.
Templar,
I hold that opinion.
Anecdote.
I voiced that opinion on MMO Champion a while back, and I wasn't banned.
Okay.
Hey,
we're gonna
maybe
have to-
some forums
Templar,
put a needle gap.
because we're going over in
Templar. Your argument is so bad, you've actually lost ground. Because
No
now
shit.
Netscape feels like he has a mini victory. But I'm going to tell him right now that your server's a mess. If you're blind to that, it's because you're lying to yourself and to your users. You're not listening to your users and their feedback. And if a user does give you feedback after they've quit or have been banned, you don't take it as valuable because they're not a member anymore. And you're going to have a serious problem. The exodus has already started. You're using exactly the same justifications Moot used in order to ban GG from his board, using exactly the same justifications that the moderators of our games used to ban GG from their board, and look what happened to both of them. They both ended up with their users hating them. They both ended up with an exodus to another server who had rules that they preferred much more than the rules of those communities. I'm not making a free speech argument. I'm not making a natural rights argument. All I'm saying is that if you keep down the line that you're going right now, you're going to have a community that is either much smaller or shaped very differently than it is now. And you're just going to have to deal with those consequences.
I think most of the people on the server don't really care that much. I don't think that most people really care that much that you got banned, QQ. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that to demean you. I'm not saying that.
I don't think you seem to get that this is nothing more than us putting up a record so that when it does happen, we can look at it and say, we fucking told you so. Maybe next time you'll listen.
And I'm going to tell you, I don't care what you think, because you keep saying you think. I know, because I've seen it with my own eyes.
Well, we can't predict the future, QQ.
I'm not predicting the future, I'm telling you about the present. I have seen it with my own eyes. And if you haven't noticed yet, that's on you. So, do we have any other concluding remarks that we want to make?
I mean, yeah, I guess one final thing, and that's, QQ, if you don't think that I've been taking people's opinions into consideration just because they're no longer part of the community or whatever, then why would I be here? Why would I be engaging with you now and having a conversation? It's not because you're a e-celeb. I mean, I don't really care what an e-celeb is. If Sargon came into the channel and he started...
Why have you been ignoring Rebel Lucy when Rebel Lucy brings up exactly the same concerns that I have, and yet when I bring up the concerns, suddenly we have a stream about it?
We did a live stream with Rebel Lucy a while back about about the similar things, about the rules, about the moderation.
Has Netscape been forthcoming with responses when you contact him?
I mean, I've sent you 2 messages and you just kind of outright ignored that. The stream we did was over the KIA thing. It was nothing over your Discord.
I thought we did talk about the rules. I could be mistaken there, but
no, I wasn't in the rules.
It was about the Pinkerbell situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did actually get 2 messages from you. But the thing is, they were in the other folder. I actually just saw them today before I started the stream up.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
they were in.
I'm going to have to go now, so concluding remarks, please. Anyone else have anything to say?
The path you're on, Netscape, I won't be surprised if you come around by 2020 with dyed hair and an earring and a sign that says, "I'm still with her." That's all I've got.
Well, I didn't even vote for her in the first place, but no. I mean, I think you're pretty ridiculous if you think that.
Bro, learn what
I think
hyperbole is.
I think that banning someone for Hoppy and Vaporwave is pretty ridiculous, but I fully respect your your moderator's supreme wisdom and great intelligence in taking such an action that didn't cause any chaos on your server whatsoever.
Look, QQ, I mean, if you want to talk to Liviana, I'm sure she'd probably be willing to have a civil conversation with you if it was a one-on-one conversation. Maybe one moderator who is completely neutral, not me, not Templar, not Rebel Lucy, just someone who's completely neutral, come in and moderate it. Talk to her, try to set this up in a very professional manner, and she might agree to it. You might be able to even get yourself unbanned. You might be able to get possibly the rules changed, but you're not going to. If you're just going to insult people like Templar is doing, you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get people to realize that your ideas are better for the rules or for how the moderation should happen.
I don't need
so
people think that my ideas are better. I just have to keep making jokes about how I was banned for posting Hoppy and Vaporwave.
Well, and what you call... That's all Liviana does, is games and say that she's smarter than everybody. Like, I have one screen was one of the last things she sent me, which says, "I have no interest in debating with anybody when none of you know what you're talking about."
It doesn't have to be a debate. It can be a civil conversation.
No, that's the thing with Liviana. I have dozens of screenshots like this. She thinks everyone else but her is an idiot, and you've ignored this.
I've had plenty of discussions with Liviana, plenty of debates. Not necessarily debates, but we've had plenty of disagreements about political issues, about things like that. And she's never once insulted me. You know why? It's not because I'm the head admin. It's because I'm respectful. I actually listen to what she has to say, and I present a different viewpoint. I don't insult her. I don't.
Don't fillet yourself. It's because you're the head admin. I've never insulted her. I've been ungodly patient with her. All of us have. She insults every single person she comes across except you. Stop filleting yourself. You're not above the rest of us.
I never said I was.
You're a fucking person.
And the only reason I did it was because the fucking thing that got QQ banned wasn't shenanigans. It was Vaporwave jokes.
All right. So I really have to go now. I think that we can consider this the concluding remarks unless anyone has something that they really urgently need to say.
I want to say something, but I don't want this stream taken down.
All right. Show some restraint.
That's what I'm doing.
That's as far as I can get.
I stream it.
All right, we'll do this again sometime. Bye.
Yes, thank you for having me on, QQ.
Thank you for coming on.
It might not have been exactly what you hoped for, and
I got exactly what I wanted. See you later, everyone.